So we want to decrease anxiety on field. We want to, because people's attitude control is only ever fight or flight issues to varying degrees. So why does fear or perceived fear, which is anxiety, trying to fix something you can't fix, or the fear of not performing well enough, or the fear of or just getting frustrated with yourself, which is more hypothalamic but still affects the amygdala. Why does that impede your ability to make sales? So, did anyone understand the concept of cortisol? So cortisol is what happens if your brain realizes if the amygdala triggers and goes, you're in danger, because remember, we grew up in times, our brain is developed in times where at any given moment a tiger could come up and eat you. So it would want you to be able to go into alert mode. But there are some downsides of cortisol. And that's if you're experiencing longer bouts of stress and anxiety that you haven't corrected. It has a few different symptoms. For instance, right, it keeps fat on your belly. Why does being stressed out make it harder to lose weight? Does anyone know? Yeah?
It puts visceral fat around your organs to protect them.
Yeah, around your organs, but also it stores on your stomach because that's closest to your center of gravity. So it stores weight on you because it thinks there's going to be food scarcity. Why does it store around your center of gravity? Can you imagine how difficult being fat would be if it gathered on your wrists and ankles? That would be horrifying, right? So that's one side effect of cortisol. Your hair and nails and stuff like that gets a little bit worse, and your skin gets worse because it's just not a high priority thing, right? What about mentally? What does cortisol do? Sorry? Okay, so this is really interesting. Do you know why? Okay, it lowers your IQ by about half. So cortisol lowers your IQ by about 50%. Not forever, but just while it's active in your system, while your brain is in that, has hit flight or flight, and says, hey, you need to be alert here. Right. So why does being, and notice, who here has made a really dumb decision when stressed out? I know I have. That's when you go to those self-destructive tendencies, or you call that ex you shouldn't have called, or you hang out with that mate that you know is going to end up on a bender, right? We make dumb decisions when we're stressed out because our IQ lowers. Why does our IQ lower? Does anybody know? Okay, so you're really going to like this. So brain activity is a mixture of blood flow and electricity. You guys liking this so far? Is this good? Okay, cool. Right. So brain activity is the technical term. It's when more electricity gets diverted to different parts of the brain and more blood flow goes to that area. When you are in danger, where does your brain want most of the activity? In your senses. It wants it in your senses so that you can hear things coming better. Who here has been really stressed out and someone's been chewing really loudly and you're like, can you stop? You guys been there before? Right? So you're more sensitive to noise. You're more sensitive you're more alert, right? You're more, do you know what, you feel that tension. That's because your brain has pulled the activity, the blood flow and electricity, out of the front of your brain and into the back parts of your brain that are responsible for your senses. So you're more aware. But what happens in the front of the brain? Intuition, empathy, problem solving, emotional control. Do you think bless you, do you think you need any of those to be good at sales? And so when your guys are losing their attitude, what's really happening in its purest sense is they're starting to get into an anxiety loop about their performance or about their can't controls or whatever, or they're getting desperate and then getting those rejections from customers, whatever causes their attitude problems, which really, again, is only ever three things. I know you guys hear me preach this all the time, but you can only lose your attitude three ways. You can get desperate, which means you stop believing in the LOAs properly, and the 3 types a day properly. You can output focus, and there's various ways you can output focus, like not racing your ghost. Let's say someone else is doing better than you and you start thinking about output focus, or there's extra pressure on you that'll make you output, whatever it might be. You're focusing on the result and not on the actions. Or you're talking about and thinking about can't controls, excuses and problems that aren't in your control to fix, right? Rather than thinking about the can controls, which is just the previous two things, your work ethic and your skills. And so any of those is going to lead to that. And we can cut it off at the cause, but we can also treat the symptoms. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Because there is circuitry in your brain that when your amygdala starts to get a little bit more active, that fear center of your brain in the middle of your brain starts to get a little bit more active, what happens is there is circuitry in there for oxytocin that will short circuit the fear loop that it starts to enter. Let me put that in layman's terms. Who here knows what oxytocin does? Just somebody help me. Surely someone knows what oxytocin is. It's the love chemical. It's the chemical of trust and caring about others and serving others and having others serve you. It's what makes us bond as human beings. When you become friends with someone, you get oxytocin. When you pat your dog, you get oxytocin. When you hug your partner, you get oxytocin, right? You get a big dump, especially who here has been in the first 3 months of a relationship where you're just like, oh my God, everything's perfect. I love this person so much. They're so amazing. Just show of hands if you've been there before. That's because your system is flooded with oxytocin because your brain is trying to pair bond with that person to increase the likelihood of progenation, of having kids. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? And so now I'm not saying shag your reps to try and calm them down, but what I am saying, I mean, unless you really want to, but I don't know what's been happening at Panacea. They've been doing something to get the results up. Very Spartan of you. Even better. So the idea is a dump of oxytocin will short circuit the fear circuitry in someone's brain. Guess how easy it is to provide someone oxytocin? Well done. You offer them help. Just the fact of someone knowing that you're there, somebody knowing that you care about them and that you're there will drastically decrease any problems they have with their attitude. Which is crazy to think. And that's when we talk about, like I said, we're talking about the lowest common denominator here. We're talking about the depth. Well, the first and easiest thing you can do is gas. Somebody tell me what gas means. Thank you, because I've stopped swearing, so I can't say it anymore. Right? But it's actually showing that you care about them. And that can be as little as just doing your reach out calls properly. Hey man, how we doing? What are your stats? Just not forgetting to do your 12:30 and 4:30 reach outs. Giving them praise in the chat for something that they do well, giving them personal praise. And it's not even on field, right? It's them because you can strengthen that bond, making time for your reps outside of it. Who here could be making more time for their reps outside of field? More. You don't get diminishing returns on that. Why do you think Avella's been popping off so well? Because they all just hang out all the time and do cool things together. It's amazing. They all know how much they care about each other. Lo and behold, they've got the best culture. Wow. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's really relevant. Segment reach outs, like I just said, actually not forgetting to check in on them and be there for them and offer them strategic help. Now, some reps have what I call a bad reach out ROI. Some reps have a really good reach out ROI. Guillaume, if I call Guillaume anytime, anywhere, no matter what, he could be at the pub, he will make a sale within 20 minutes of me calling him. That's a high reach ROI guy. If I've got a low, sorry? At the pub. Yeah, who knows, right? Some people are high ROI reach outs. Some people are not. And if somebody is a low ROI reach out, what should you do? There's 2 steps here. What's step number 1? Sorry? Reach out. If you've got someone who's got bad ROI when you do reach out calls for them. Use a different strategy. Okay, close. Very, very close. Step number 1 is evaluate your reach out ability. Is actually find who the best person is in the team at doing reach outs and call them and ask what they do. Right? There is an RTT manual specifically word for word on exactly how to do it effectively. So I would recommend doing that, especially the Michael's Secret Stuff component. Does everyone know that? Yeah. Right? So I would make sure that I'm highlighting that. But then step number 2 is I would breach that with them. I would actually broach that concept with them and go, hey man, listen, when I give Guillaume reach out calls, he does really, really well. When I give you reach out calls, it feels like a waste of my time. Why is that? And then you can strategize together. And they go, it's like, are you implementing what I'm saying? Then is it an attitude problem? Which of the 3 attitude problems is it? Well, then we need to focus on that for the next 2 weeks thoroughly. And you need to follow up with them every day on that. Attitude in particular, if you're trying to teach attitude to a rep, it's not like teaching them a sales skill. It's not something they've never done before. You've got to unteach them 25 years of bad habits. That takes consistency. So if you're focusing on one of the attitude issues that someone struggles with, you need to be spamming them twice a day, every day. Who here is doing that enough? Cool. Is this helpful? Yeah. Cool. Hercules Neurosales, you guys should know this one. This is in the RTT platform manual, right? It's just the idea that, when you're a seller, and you guys are all quite high level, so you should know this. When you're a seller, we want all the credit. But when you become a leader, it's now your time to give that away. I say, own your losses, give away your wins. You guys have heard that before? Yeah. If you haven't, write it down. Own your losses, give away your wins. But the analogy is, Hercules is the hero, Phil's the guy that makes the heroes. You got to stop being the hero and start being the person that hypes them up. If you guys do a pitch for pitch sale together, they made that sale. If you guys come up with a good idea together, they made that idea. Right? It's giving them credit, building their belief, because not only is that increasing their confidence and their serotonin, but it shows that you care, which increases their oxytocin. So if you want reps that hold their attitude better by a factor of 200 to 400%, just do the things you already know you're supposed to do. Show that you care, make time for them, don't miss your planning calls and reach out calls, and make sure that you give them the credit and not yourself. Cool? Yeah. So honestly, I dare you to try it. I dare you to try this and not watch your consistency double. Cool.